Hey. And now, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Shop Gym Ashburn. On behalf of us and Fit and Furious, we now present Body by O.
Hey, what's happening, guys? So for any of you guys who are coming in a little bit, as we're getting started now, we're going to do a raffle after Lauralie's section. And so if you guys don't have a ticket, don't worry about it, because right before we do the raffle, we'll ask you guys to put your hands up, and whoever does have a ticket, we'll bring you your ticket, and then we'll do the raffle. And so we'll be splitting the presentation up tonight into two parts. One part I will be doing, which will be on nutrition and training, and Lauralie will be doing all of the stage presentation. And then we will also be doing a Q&A on the new division that the NPC is doing now, the Fit model. So we'll answer questions on whether it's on nutrition or training for it or stage presentation for it. We did a seminar last week together in Florida for the NPC Women's Workshop, and we had a lot of discussions with it there. We'll continue that here. So if you guys have any questions about that or I've been through the inception, I think, of every single division and category that the NPC has brought on. So it's a new category that's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll work that into the back end of it, and then we'll get with you guys and answer your Q&As on that. So starting out, what we'll do is we'll start with the beginning part of this. Basically, why I like to do seminars. How many of you guys here, how many of you guys are trainers? Good. And how many of you guys are competitive athletes? Excellent. Now, you guys who are trainers, sometimes when you're talking to your clientele base, whether it's an online consultation, you only have a certain amount of time to tell the clients what you'd like them to do. So to go into detail about why you want them to do a certain thing and what your thought process is, it's hard to expound on things. This is why I like seminars, because you can expound on your ideas and you can explain things in more detail, so you can get to the science behind what you do. Now, prefacing this by saying that there's not a right or a wrong way behind how or why you do things. There's a lot of different ways of doing things. Science is science, and we'll go over that today. Now, how you implement that science, that's up to you. And there's a lot of different ways to do things. But what I like to do is I like to explain the science behind certain things to give you a broader spectrum or knowledge of things, so that you have different ideas that maybe you can implement either with your training or what you do with your clientele base. So for athletes, it will help you to open your mind about different ways that you can be more competitive or make things easier for you during your preps and your off seasons. For trainers, to help you to be able to work with your clientele base to achieve their goals. And that's the bottom line. It's all about achieving goals and helping people to reach where they're trying to reach. So when I first came into the industry, was like many, many moons ago. We're talking about probably 30 years. So maybe 30 years worth of moons. That's a lot of moons. What I would recommend to all trainers is to basically get your background information and knowledge through certifications and as much educational background as you can. Some of the things that I did when I first started coming up was to get medical background, because I just perceived it to be very important, because my training partner at that time was a female athlete and she was a fitness competitor. So I just wanted to know about injuries, I wanted to know about hormones, I wanted to know about eating disorders. So I did a lot of my background studies with medical, the medical background, ACSM, working with doctors, working with eating disorder therapists and things like that. So try to get as many certifications as you can to back up the information of what you're going to be using with your clientele base. These are just some of the things that I've done that basically talk about that, and some of the certifications that I've used to, to back up that information. I've been very blessed, obviously, through my career. I've had 7 Olympia champions, Miss 2024 Olympia champion here. I have the current 2 Olympia champions, the bikini Jessica Wilson, your current bikini Masters Olympia champion, and Aria Safi, the current men's physique Olympia champion. 13 Arnold's Classic champion, 2024 Arnold's Classic champion here. Oh, by the way, the first person to win both titles in the same year. So that, trust me, that's a tough thing to do. And I've been blessed with a lot of pro wins. I can't even remember how many pro cards anymore, and I can't remember how many amateur wins anymore. I lost that too many years ago. This obviously is my home. I have been here, I've been competing since 1980. I competed from 80 to 96. And then in 96, I started doing training. So I've been in the NPC since 96, and I have never competed anywhere else, and I've never trained athletes anywhere else. This is the only place that I have made my home. And I owe Mr. Jim Mandan and his family a debt of gratitude because they have provided both myself and my clients with a platform to show our hard work and what we do. And they have been more than gracious with everything that I have been able to accomplish in my career. So I am eternally grateful to both these organizations because I can't brag about them enough. The pro divisions and looking at your styles of physiques, obviously within the pro divisions, and it's trickle-down effect. So when you're looking at pro bikini, you're looking at the elite division of what we have in bikini. So you have your pros, you have your national level, and you have your local level. So when you aspire to be a pro, these are some of the current pros that I currently have. And this is a framework in muscularity conditioning. And so when you look at these, this is where you want to aspire. If you're looking to line up, okay, what's my symmetry need to look like? What's my conditioning need to look like? These are some of the pro athletes that you will see currently, and you will see them on pro stages that you can probably marry up where your body lines are and where conditioning comes in. There are a lot of great pros out there right now. But when you're looking at physiques and you're trying to say, okay, where does my physique fall and how, always look for a physique and a structure that is in similar proximity to what your current physique is. So you're a 5'2", if you're a 5'2" girl, don't look at a Lauralie Chapados, because that's going to be a different body line and that's going to be a different structure. Look for a 5'2" girl like a Jessica Wilson, where you can go, okay, that's a structure I can marry to. So pick a similar structure, pick a similar body line. That way you kind of get a picture in your mind of where you're trying to want to go to. But I have worked with bikini, I have worked with figure, I have 3 wellness that recently have been on the top end of the Arnolds, the Olympias. Fitness, I have men's physique, I have classic men's physique Olympians. Sonia was my first bikini, which is now kind of where the protocol to fit model is falling into. So now it's like going all the way back to where I first started with my first bikinis. And so we will come back to fit model on the back end when we open up our Q&A about fit models, but fit model has kind of rewound the clock back the other way, and it's going to be kind of fun because it's a throwback, so it'll be fun to see how they set those protocols up and what they do with allowing the freedom there on the stage presentation and what they do with suits and things like that. So we'll get onto that on the back end. Going into today's seminar on the nutrition aspects of things, we're going to talk about what calories are, what your metabolic meter is and all these different categories. Your body as you can without putting on a high degree of body fat. Because if you put on a high degree of body fat, then at some point when you go to diet down for a show, you have to strip that body fat back off. And if you got to take that, if you're, let's say, starting from a 25 or a 30 or a 35 pound overage, now when you go to strip that body fat off, you're going to also strip down lean muscle tissue because you're coming down from such a high place that you're going to sacrifice lean muscle. So it all begins with the quality of calories that you're choosing to implement in your diet. So we want to always make sure that we choose the highest, most efficient quality of calorie that we can put into our body so that we get our body to utilize those calories as efficiently as possible. So always remember when you start your diet, remember, okay, my list is going to be, here's all my calories I'm going to use, and these are going to be the most efficient calories that I can find that my body will utilize. So I'm not going to do a lot of dairy because dairy contains casein. Casein coats the lining of the stomach, which slows down ingestion or digestion. So what ends up happening is now you're slowing down your body's process of being able to digest its foods. So we want to use things wisely and smart so that we keep things processing as quickly as possible. Your metabolic meter, that's your metabolism. And God knows, I wish I had a Ferrari, but I'm a damn turtle. And so there are no standard perfect metabolisms. Each one of you guys in this room has a different metabolic process. You have a different metabolism or a metabolic rate. So I hate the word bulking. And when people do consultations with me and they go, oh yeah, I just came out of a bulking phase, and I look at their photos and their body fats are around 25 to 26%, and they're way too high. And now what's going to happen is we're going to lose some. I've got to get their body fat down, and I got to get their lean muscle up because they're upside down. Well, what you want to be careful of is you want to be careful of getting caught in this thought of, okay, in order to gain muscle, I have to have this many calories. But your body may not process that many calories efficiently. So just because, oh yeah, you got to eat 24 to 2,600 calories a day to be able to gain muscle, that's not a true statement, because your metabolism may not be able to handle that many calories. If you're 5'2" and you're 120 pounds and you're trying to eat 24 to 2,600 calories and you have a slow metabolic rate, you're going to put on body fat very, very quickly. So it's about knowing where your core metabolic rate is and knowing how fast it is so that you do not overload that metabolic rate. And then that way you don't start putting on what you think is lean muscle tissue. And then now what you're actually doing is you're piling on body fat. And so some of that is having to have an objective eye, whether that's a trainer or whether it's, a physician you may be seeing or a nutritionist. But you need sometimes an objective eye to help you to go, nope, where, having body fat tests done and having, a DEXA scan done or something where you have analysis to see, okay, what's the actual lean muscle tissue doing to body fat, where now you can actually see it in front of you, black and white. And B, because when you try to do it yourself, it's hard to be objective. Because you just look and your mind tells you, oh, look how big I'm getting, look how strong I'm getting. And you kind of block out what you physically don't want to see. And that's the danger point. And now you turn around and 4 months later, You're like, oh yeah, I did really great. I'm up to 150. And then you go have a DEXA scan done and you find out your body fat levels are 27, 28%. And you're now going to have to diet all the way down to 14% body fat for a show. And you're hoping to do it in 12 to 15 weeks. And that's going to be one really hard prep. And that's what sets people up for failure. Because now, instead of a slow, easy process, now the process becomes very, very arduous, and it beats you up mentally, physically, emotionally. And then it starts to really play the mind games. So try to be very, very honest with yourself about, you can check to see, you can do a metabolic test to check to see where your core metabolic rate is and see where your basal level is, to see where your basal metabolic level is. And then that way you can get an idea of, okay, here's my basal, now add my daily activity in. Okay, this is about the amount of calories that I can handle. Now I'll plus it by another 100 to 200 calories. That's about where I should be. And then study. And then that way you set yourself up for slow gains, not fast body fat gains. Now, there are two components that can affect your metabolic rate. And one of those components is dropping calories too low. If you drop those calories, and by dropping them too low, I mean going down to that 800 calorie range, if you drop calories too low, you will trigger starvation in your body. Because the way your body burns its calories, it will go through glycogen first, it will go through fats second, and then it will go into proteins third. Now, within the protein structure is your internal organs and your lean muscular. So once it goes through glycogen, let's say you're on a low-fat diet. Now it burns through those little bit of fats, boom. Now it's right into the protein. So now you're going catabolic. And your body's gonna sense that. So now what it's gonna do is it's gonna shut down because it's gonna wanna protect itself. It's gonna wanna protect its internal organs. So now it's gonna shut itself down. And once it shuts itself down, now it sets up two scenarios. So it slows its metabolism down so that it'll slow itself down all the way down to a snail's pace. So it will preserve itself so it does not go chew into the internal organs. And secondly, when you do feed it, it's gonna go, okay, I'm gonna need this food for later on. So it's gonna be kind of like a chipmunk, and it's gonna hoard it. And it's gonna go, I'm gonna save these calories, and I'm just gonna give the body a little bit so I don't go in to tap into my internal organs. So it's gonna start to hoard what you feed it. So whatever you feed it in that next meal, it's gonna hoard probably 60% of that. It'll utilize a certain amount for instant energy, and the rest of it's gonna hoard as body fat. So now the body fat levels will actually start to go up higher. And so you wanna be very, very careful about dropping those levels too low. And especially if you're on a high calorie out, so expenditure, if you're doing 2.5, 3 hours of cardio a day, and you're only eating 800 calories a day, that's a double whammy. Because now you're fast forwarding all the calories that you're fast forwarding burning through glycogen, you're fast forwarding burning through fats, and you're tapping into that protein and that muscular structure, you're tapping into that even faster. So be very, very careful about how low. I do not like going below 1,000 calories a day with my clients, because I just think everything below that is gonna put that little danger sign up. So I'm very, very careful about that from a health standpoint. The other portion of this is meal frequency. So in this arena with meal frequency, I like to kind of equate it to a fire. And so if you have a fire And if I only put wood in a fire twice a day, then the gap between when I put the wood in the fire's going to go out. And then when I put wood in a fire, I'm going to have to relight it to get the fire back going. Well, your metabolism's the same way. If you only feed that metabolism twice a day, then that metabolism is going to go back out again because it needs constant fuel. And so those little small frequent meals, it keeps that metabolism moving and it keeps that body moving. So a lot of times my clients want, hey, coach, it's too hard. Can I just eat 3 meals a day? The only problem with that is a couple of things. Number one, your body can only assimilate so many calories at a meal and use those calories both efficiently and effectively. So for a girl, you can effectively have about 300 to 400 calories at a meal that your body will burn those calories, utilize them, and not store them as fat. Guys, a little bit more, usually about 400 to 500, sometimes more depending upon their degree of muscularity. So if your body can only handle about 300 to 400 calories, now if you're jamming an 1,800 calorie diet into just 3 meals, so now you're having 600 calories at a meal, and if your body can only assimilate 300 of it, or let's say even 400, then 200 of that is probably going to be shifting over and getting stored as body fat. Plus, anytime you go over a 5 to 6 hour window, now you go back to that triggering effect where your body goes, gonna starve me again, so I better hold on, whatever he's giving me now, I better hold on to it because he's not going to feed me again for 6 more hours. So now you get this effect of your body wanting to go back to chipmunk mode, where it's wanting to store its body fat and it's wanting to hold on to it for future energy purposes. So you're going to want to be careful. You're going to want to have small, that's the whole theory behind having small, frequent meals. So it's continually putting good quality fuel into your body in small, frequent times throughout about every 2.5 to 3.5 hours. So your body releases that fuel for energy. It knows it's going to get it. Your body's smart. It knows when you're going to feed it. And it knows when it's going to get its next energy feeding. It knows its timing. And so your body knows, okay, she going to feed me again. So I'll burn this up and I'll get my next meal. You keep that timing in there, your body's going to release that fuel. So those are the 2 biggest factors that are involved that will keep your metabolism moving. And that metabolism is the most important thing for you to be able to make sure that you guys don't put on a large amount of body fat. A balanced physique, basically what a balanced physique means is that keeping everything in alignment. So that's the endocrine system, the hormonal system. Girls are way more complex than guys. Guys, I've probably trained 200,000 clients in my life. And when I first started, all I had was guys. And it was easy. It's like ramp up their testosterone, feed them a bunch of meat, put them in the gym. They were happy. It was like nothing. Along came the girls, and I was pulling the hairs out my head because they were like doing their cardio, and they would be screaming at me because their hormones would go all over the place and didn't understand what's going on, why don't I have no energy, what's wrong with me. So then I learned I got a really good dose of hormones and emotions and that whole factor. So by balance, I mean, you guys, all your system is like dominoes. And if one of those dominoes tip, bloop, 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 it all starts going. So everything has got to stay in balance, or one will tip to the other, will tip to the other, will tip to the other, and it knocks your whole system out of balance. So fats are extremely important in your diet. That's the first thing I learned. I could not train a female athlete like I train my guys, because you guys need fats to keep everything in balance. Your hormones need to stay in balance. Your adrenal glands need to stay in balance, because if those things get out of balance, and especially your cortisol levels, if those cortisol levels get out, now drops into the hormone levels, now estrogen starts to rise, and what happens? You scream at your husband, you scream at the person on the treadmill next to you, and you punch your trainer in the face. All things start happening at one time. So all these things have to stay in balance. And Lauralie and I have the discussion all the time. When your environment around you plays a huge role. And people ask us about our last Olympia and what made such a difference in our look and everything. Her environment played such a huge role in where that overall look, because her environment was calm, her mindset, her body balance, everything was in balance. And because of it, her body ran like a machine. It never went up, or it just slow, steady progress. So by balance, I mean keep everything around you in balance. Keep your environment in balance. And if you do that, I promise you, it'll be the easiest prep you've ever had. Get that out of balance, and it will fight you the whole way. But you guys, do your due diligence with your testings, before each prep. Have your hormones checked. Check your adrenal glands. Check your cortisol levels. Make sure everything starts in a balanced place. And then that way okay, I'm getting ready for my prep. Everything's in a good spot. Awesome. Now I just keep it here through my prep.
I'm going to add something because, oh my God, I feel like that's so loud. But he makes such a good point. So the off season, right, it's a pre-season. So if you see it as a pre-season, if you're actually getting the machine ready to go on a race. So for environment purposes, let's say, you wouldn't take your Lamborghini out when it's like raining and it's like gray outside and slippery. Analyze your environment. You want to have a state where you have enough muscle to just drive your metabolism by itself. So you have less cardio to do because your body is a furnace and it's running through because you have that muscle to hold that onto. Then the anti-catabolic, that should be your favorite word because that can save you so much money. I mean, we work so hard for our muscles, like so much chicken breast into those muscles, like all these years. And if you have to lose them doing cardio, it's such a sad story. But yeah, really treat yourself as a machine. And I think that's our strategy moving forward, is how can we bring our body like exactly to a starting point where, I mean, we had a very long prep if we think about it. Like 22 weeks of prep is one of their longest prep, but it flew by this quick because I felt like an athlete. I felt like I was able to handle runs and sprints and plyometric. And he was like, okay, here's what you're going to do, circuit. I'm like, okay, let's go. Yes, I'm ready for it. And it was very uplifting, and when you have a bad day, but you're thriving and you're feeling good about yourself, time goes by so quickly. And little did I know the Olympia was here and I was just as calm and we ran through this thing like it was nothing. So really take your time. There's no rush into going into a race right now if you feel like your machine is not optimal. And in the same instance, nothing is never going to be that perfect. So dare to jump in when you feel like it's the right time.
Now, when you look at your different types and breaking these things down now into the three categories of protein, carbs, and fats, and basically that's the building blocks of nutrition. So starting with proteins, and there's a debate on how much protein each individual should have. And usually, as a rule of thumb, with female athletes, I never like to go over a gram per pound of body weight. And in some cases, I'll be between 65% to 70% per pound of body weight. So girls don't need as much protein as guys do, because I find sometimes if you guys notice you get bloating during preps, or if you get that protein too high, then that can cause a lot of bloating and distension through the lower intestines, because your body just isn't made to process that high degree of protein like a guy does. So with your proteins, you want to be careful not to get those levels too high. Now, proteins are broken down into your amino acids, and you have your two classes. You have your essential and your non-essential. So your essential amino acids, those are the important ones. So those are the ones that basically your body needs, which your body can't make them, so your body needs them to be able to recover and to be able to add lean muscle tissue. So I always call the essential, it's the cavalry. So anytime you train, we shave a layer of the fascia, which the fascia is the muscle, it's the lining that goes around the outer edge of the muscle that allows the muscle, it holds it tight. Well, when you train, the fascia stretches, which allows the muscle room to grow. So every time you train, you shave a layer of the fascia. Well, your amino acids is the cavalry, that's what comes in, and it heals. Well, if you train and you don't have the amino acids to come in and heal and recover, then all you do is break down. So eventually, if your muscle is a softball, eventually it's going to be about the size of a pea, because it's just going to continue to atrophy. So you want to make sure that your protein sources are as high as you can get them in both essential and non-essential amino acids. So basically your essential amino acids come into your complete proteins, which are chicken, turkey, fish, things like that. Is anybody here vegetarian or vegan? Pescatarian? Okay, that's still okay because you have your fish. My vegans, which I have probably 4 vegans that are pros and a number that are NPC. The vegans and the vegetarians, that's a different perspective because their protein sources come from incomplete. So it either comes from tempeh or tofu or legumes. So those are incomplete sources because they don't contain the essential amino acids. So their recovery time can be slower. So for you, the things that become important are your protein powders. Now, protein powders, be careful because certain types of protein powders can be fast digesting. So how many of you guys use like whey proteins? Okay. Now, when you use whey proteins, any of you guys notice that after you do your whey protein, do you notice any bloating or any distension at all? A little bit? So sometimes now, proteins have gotten better. I will give them credit. They have added, went way back in the day. I'm not going to go way back too because this is like way back now. But anyway, I used to add flaxseed or peanut butter a lot of times because it used to happen to me all the time. Well, now they've gotten a lot better because they've added fillers. That's why when you look at protein containers, there are so many fillers. The reason the fillers are in there is to slow the digestibility down of the whey protein. So your body, it slows it down. Otherwise, the whey will travel through your intestines and drop down into the lower intestines too quickly. And then that causes distension, that causes bloating. So what they've done is they've slowed the digestibility down by adding in fillers. And so a lot of times if you find that happens to your protein, switch over to a slower digesting protein like a casein or a pea protein, like a vegetarian protein. and that will slow down the digest, or an egg protein that's, a little slower ingesting. There we go. Going into your carbohydrates. So with carbs, obviously you have two types of carbs. You have your simple carbs, which are your faster ingesting, your higher glycemic. And you have your complex carbs, which are your lower glycemic and your slower ingesting. Now, when you're prepping for shows, you obviously want to stay into your complex carbs, because your complex carbs keeps you off of the insulin roller coaster. And that's another thing can drive anybody crazy. Because when your insulin does this, then your mood does that. And the whole idea, anytime you're in off-season or prep, keep insulin flatline. If you can keep insulin flatline, you can keep mood flatlined. So you want to be careful of where and when and how you're having simple carbs. If you're using simple carbs, you want to keep them either right before an activity or immediately following, because it has a very short life of being in the bloodstream. And so if you're just having simple carbs and you're going to go do a 2.5-hour walk on a treadmill, it will drop your blood sugar levels somewhere within the first 20 to 30 minutes of that activity level. Whereas a complex carb will hold you anywhere from 40 minutes to probably 90 minutes. So you're going to want to be careful about how and where you use simple and complex carbs, because what it will affect is your blood sugar levels. Now, usually where I use simple carbs is to have along with my clients, so that while they're exercising and training, if their blood sugar starts to drop a little bit, then we bring in a simple, get their blood sugar back up, and that takes them through the rest of their workout. But that's the only place I like to use it. Other than that, they have it either at a snack or somewhere where we're not exercising, where I don't have to worry about blood sugar fluctuations that may cause them to either pass out or go down in energy. This is the area that I have fights with my clients all the time, because this is the sugar area. And everybody that says that sugar alcohols are not sugars, or try to convince me they're not sugars, they just want to fight. And we go toe-to-toe with it all the time. But the truth of it is, sugar alcohols are sugar compounds. The way the FDA categorizes something as being sugar-free is that it does not significantly impact insulin. But it doesn't mean it does not contain sugar within its ingredient base. So with sugar alcohols, you have to be very careful, because it does contain sugar. And in some cases, something like, let's say chewing gum. Does anybody know how many sugar alcohols is in a stick of chewing gum? There's like 5 of them. Between xylitol, malitol, sorbitol, it's like erythritol. They've got not just one, they've got like 5 or 6. So whenever my clients like to chew gum, I always tell them, go get a gum like Spree, that it's xylitol only. It only has 1 sugar alcohol. And then I limit them. Don't go chiclet crazy. Just have like 3. Don't eat the whole chiclet box. So you got to be careful with sugar alcohols. And of the sugar alcohols, be careful of aspartame, because aspartame has some seriously negative side effects. If you heat aspartame to a certain degree, what does it do to your body? It's what they use for embalming. So he's going to want to stay in its normal state. So anytime you put something in that's been chemically altered, your body's going to want to fight it because it's going to want to stay. It goes back to that balance thing. Your body's going to want to stay balanced. Now, you have 3 different types of sugars. You have monosaccharides, which are singular rings. And that's your fructose, your sorbitol, things like that. And they can cause insulin spikes faster because they're singular rings and they require no digestion. So they can spike insulin immediately, which when you spike insulin, if we go back to that roller coaster, when you spike insulin, oh my God, you feel amazing. Everybody around you is happy because you're happy and wow, life is amazing. Only problem is when that roller coaster comes down, does it come back down to normal? It comes back down way below normal. So when you go way below normal, what's that called? That's called cravings. So now when you hit down here, now all of a sudden it's like, get out of my way. I gotta have chocolate. I need sugar. And now you start craving. And now you want. And so now what do? You go get more, so you spike yourself up. So your day looks like this. Up, down, instead of consistent. So stay away from the glucose, the fructose, the sorbitols. Stay away from those insulin spikes. The disaccharides are the 2. That's your sucroses and your corn syrups, your brown sugars. Those have 2 rings, and those are a little slower ingesting. And the best ones is your polysaccharides. That's your 3 rings. And your polysaccharides are your natural, your corn, your rice cakes, your grains, things like that, because those are going to be slower ingestings. So watch your sugar alcohols, because even though you don't think they're going to spike your insulin, they will spike your insulin. And even though you think it's a better choice than sugar, it's not. It will spike your insulin. The function of carbohydrates, basically, it's to keep glycogen gets in the muscle and it keeps the muscle bellies full. It rounds them and it fills them out. So if you're competing, you want full round muscle bellies. If you pull the glycogen, if you're doing a low carb diet and a low fat diet, then what's going to happen is you're going to lose your glycogen in your muscle. Now you're going to start to look stringy and thin. And then now everything pulls in and your body tends to pull in. And now if you're tall like Lauralie is, now you look very tall and very thin. And that happened to us at one show, not on purpose. It was one of our Olympias, but her metabolism started speeding up and we couldn't slow her down. And it just kept going. And the more we put in her, the more it went. But what happened is she was burning the glycogen so fast that I watched she just kept getting thinner and thinner and thinner. And that's the body burning through that glycogen. So glycogen is extremely important. And that's why when I see clients that come to me that are on very low diets, very low carb diets, I can immediately look at their bodies and go, no, you don't have any glycogen in the muscle to keep the muscle full. And so sometimes that takes a little bit to get your body used to it. And now we keep her diet balanced between what we do with glycogen and fats. But it is really important to keep the glycogen in there. What do you think's more important? To have glycogen before you train with weights or after? Who says before? Before? Who says after? Okay, actually you're both correct. Because you need it before, because again, remember your body needs glycogen for rounding and pushing energy for lifting, but it also needs it for recovery. It's got to replenish it to get the muscle to grow. And so the importance of that part is knowing that you need to surround your workouts using glycogen. So if you're not having a lot of carbs, when you have your carbs, make sure you're having them around your training. Protect your muscle. Because if you're training hard and you're doing cardio hard and you're not surrounding your training with glycogen, you're going to burn muscle. So be careful. Now, going into fats. Now, basically, protein puts off 4 calories of energy, carbs 4 calories of energy, fat 9 calories of energy. So what that tells us about fat is that fat is a dense calorie. So you want to be careful of the types of fats you have and where you place your fats, because it is a dense calorie. So the quality of fats become very, very important. So you want to use things like salmon, you want to use things like avocado, extra virgin olive oil, things that are high quality that your body will use for its hormones, hair, nails, skin tone. You want to make sure that your fats are going to be in your system and utilized properly, but at the same time, knowing that you can't get those fats too high where, okay, your body can't utilize all those grams of fat and now too much goes towards fat storages. Now, where you have to be careful in going into fats and going into this thought process is about portion sizes. So with portion sizes, you have to be careful with what's out there and what they tell you, because advertising gets creative with portion sizes. And so, for instance, how many of you guys use Pam when you cook? Almost everybody now. Okay. Have you ever looked at the serving size on Pam? What's it say? Yeah, it's 1/3 second spray. Who the hell sprays 1/3 second? I like draw Mickey Mouse or my son's name, or it's like we. So actually, and the way they break it down, something can be 0.9 grams, so almost a gram, and under, and still be categorized as 0, fat-free. But it's got a gram of fat. So we're spraying thinking it's fat-free, but in actuality, each 1/3 second has 1 gram of fat. So if we spray, and we spray for like 4 seconds, 3 seconds, something like that, you're getting like 5 to 8 grams of fat per serving each time you use it. So 7 grams times 3, that's 21 grams of fat each day that you're not even calculating into your score. So it's like, oh, crap. Okay, now I see where some of this extra stuff's coming from. Same thing with pouring. If you're using olive oil or using things where you're not spraying, be careful. Because when you pour, we just tend to pour instead of actually measuring. So again, the thing to remember is with fats, it is a very dense calorie. So you have to be very careful with your portion sizes. Measure it out to make sure that the fats you're using, you're not overusing. So whether it's spray or if you're buying, peanuts in a thing is another good one. It says for the whole bag, it's like 60 calories. Only problem is it's 4 servings per bag. So now the bag is 320 calories. So be careful to watch your portion sizes. Be careful to watch what's in there to make sure that you're not going overboard. Also, ground turkey. The way that the RDA had set up they divide everything by the total amount of calories that's in the serving, that's in the whole package, instead of doing it per serving size. So the actual way you should do it is that a gram of fat is 9 calories. So if you take 1 gram times 9 and divide it by the calories of the serving size, that will give you the percentage of the serving that is actually fat, not of the whole composition of the whole package. And then that makes it go a lot higher. So what you think is actually 98 sometimes is actually 87. So be careful of what you're buying and how much you're getting in there. Again, this is just some of your healthy fats, your olive oils, your coconut oils, your almonds, your salmons. Keep your fats to your healthy portions. Don't be afraid of fats. You're going to need them because that is your long chain energy source. Without them, I promise you, your hormones are going to get off. Your hair is going to get brittle. You are going to have, your nails are going to get brittle, and you're going to have health issues. It will happen. I've seen it happen over and over. Don't be afraid of it. Just learn how to use it effectively. Water. 95% of the times when my clients come to me and they go, oh my God, coach, I need a fat burner. I need a fat burner. I got no energy. They're dehydrated. And the most important thing about water is not the fact that you're drinking it. It's that you need electrolytes to transport water into the muscle. So if you think of water, if you think of your body like a battery, if you just put water in a battery, eventually a battery is going to die. It needs the acid to make the battery run. Well, your body's the same way. If you just put water in your body, it's just going to keep flushing through. Well, every time you drink water and it comes out, it flushes electrolytes out of your body. Well, eventually you flush all the electrolytes out. Now you're going to cramp. So now you may go, hey, you know what? I drink water all day long and I'm cramping. What the hell? It's because you're flushing all the electrolytes out of your body. So if you drink water by liter or by gallon, get some electrolytes, put the electrolytes in there. So while you're drinking, you're replenishing the electrolytes that your body is flushing out. So it stops dehydration, because what you think half the time is lack of energy from what you need is a fat burner is actually coming from dehydration.
And I find also when you're hydrating yourself and on top of that you're using electrolytes, it helps with your cravings a ton. So I would recommend waking up in the morning, and that's what I've been doing this entire prep. I have lemon water, glutamine for my little tummy, and recovery. And I also do a scoop of electrolytes called Lauralie and Evogen. But it's been such a game changer energy-wise, and also just monitoring the craving, and it just makes you drink water and keeps you full and ready to go. Fuel.
With sodium, again, same thing with sodium. Don't be afraid of sodium. Your body needs sodium and potassium in balance. One without the other will create water retention. For her last Olympia, we never dropped sodium. We kept everything in balance. We kept sodium right into the day of the show. Never pulled it, never dropped it. Because I was afraid if we pulled it, it would cause an imbalance. She would flush and go flat. And so your body needs balance. And I know we keep going back and forth to that, but it's the truth. Now, sometimes things happen where you do have to pull sodium because either maybe your cycle starts or you're nervous and you're getting water retention. There are always things you may have to do on the back end of a prep to make adjustments to what's happening, but don't be afraid of sodium. During preps, or you should get used to being able to diet down and know what a body looks like with water. So then when you pull water, your body doesn't get dehydrated and flat for too long of a period of time. And now when you get down to your show day, there's no adjustment to be made. Your body's already flattened out. There's nothing you can do. And now you get on stage and you're flat and you're tired and you're exhausted. So leave your sodium in until either you or your coach goes, okay, now it's time to start to ease that out. And you do that for that little short period of time. These are just some of the products that we have. I do make a cortisol product strictly because working with as many female athletes as I do, that has been, the cortisol and the balance have been the two things that I have found has helped more of my female athletes than anything else. The cortisol lowers their stress levels, which obviously you lower stress, you lower estrogen, you lower body fat right around the midsection. And the balance is important, especially in the off season, because I'm trying to reset their hormones. So we want to make sure that their DHEA levels, all of their estrogen to testosterone levels, we want to get all that as close to balance as we can, so that then when they go into their next prep season, everything starts from that balanced state. That's been two of the most important products that I've developed that I find really, really have helped the girls. In contest training, you basically, and there's 500 different ways probably to, train for shows. And training has gotten better and better and better over the years. When I first started, we were lifting rocks and sticks in a field. We didn't have a whole lot of stuff. So now there's so many different Panada, and today we were over here training. I'm like, oh my God, look at this. Look at this thing does. What does that do? Look at this angle. It's like a kid in a little candy store. I was having so much fun because there are so many different angles and pivot points and things that you can do now to hit things so differently. But all these things, that's the consistency. So it's not the machines. The machines just are angles and things you use. It's where do you put your tempos at? How do you slow things down so you don't use cheat movements? Because when you use cheat movements, now you're hitting all the assistance groups, but you're not targeting the muscle you're trying to hit. So I told Lauralie last year, she goes, well, how are we going to train? I said, we're going to train with a rifle and a scope. We're not training with a shotgun. We're going to train with a rifle and a scope. She's like, huh? I'm like, we're targeting. We're going to target this. We're going to target that. We're going to target that. Because when you're building physiques, sometimes when you have a structure that the structure's there, don't keep making the structure big. Refine it. Make all the little things perfect. Don't make the whole picture too big. So now if you're a beginner and you're just starting and you're just learning, yes, you can do more compound stuff. But if you have a good structure and your structures, if the judges are telling you, you're big enough, you don't need to be any bigger. You just need refinement. There it is right there, your tempos. Slow your tempos down, hold and squeeze the movements, feel it where you're trying to feel it. If you're trying to hit rear delt, you don't want it in your traps. If you're trying to feel it in your upper lat, right underneath the armpit, you don't want to feel it in your tricep. You want to isolate the muscle group so you can target it and hit exactly where you're trying to hit. That's how you get refinement. That's how you get things to pop. Because now that little area starts to come out. And now you get projection. And now a little girl like Jessica Wilson that steps on stage at 102 pounds wins an Olympia Masters crown, beating girls 135 and 140 pounds because her body projects perfectly. And so it becomes about refinement. And that's in the tempo. Intensity, how hard you train yourself without cheating, without breaking your form. So intensity is extremely important. Pushing yourself as hard as you can without sacrificing your form or your function. And that's very, very important, because as you guys get older, injuries become prominent, especially for master competitors. So when you're young, you get an injury, you recover quickly, and you'll be okay. I always tell my masters athletes, 2 things will stop you. 2 things will shut your competitive career down. 1, injury. 2, illness. Those 2 things. So you guys have to be very careful. Do not get an injury. Do not get sick. Well, that's why you want to be careful. In your intensity should be, you want to be able to dive into it, push, but do it smartly. Your range of motion should always be a full range of motion. That's how you develop full round muscle bellies. That's how you develop wide lats that come from the right by the armpit all the way down to the small of the back. So when you're developing bodies, you want to be able to have everything in full development. That is full range of motion. So make sure every exercise you do, I can't tell you how many times an athlete will come to train with me, and I'll be, okay, show me how you do your dumbbell shoulder press. And this is their dumbbell shoulder press. And I get why, because they train in, my facility is a private facility, and I keep it like that because I want focus, and I only want me and the client. That's it. But they come to some big gyms, and they want people to know, I can do 90-pound shoulder press. It's like, okay, show me. So this is their range. That's their range of motion. And it's like, okay, you're missing the whole bottom half of that range of motion, where it should be here and up. So when you shorten that range of motion, you completely shorten you lose the whole bottom half of that motion, which is the whole bottom half of the tie-in of that muscle, where it ties in to the bicep and the tricep. And so if you want full muscle bellies and you want good attachments, which, by the way, what causes projection in a muscle? Tie-ins. Clean tie-in, good projection. That comes from that full range of motion. So you guys make sure full range of motion on everything. And of course, proper training techniques, which goes back to what we were saying. Proper training techniques for certain body styles. Know your categories. And this is extremely important, and it's going to become extremely important for fit model. It's very important for bikini. And what I mean by know your category, when I see a bikini girl doing heavy deadlifts and heavy squats, it's like, okay, you're pushing yourself completely away from your category and what is going to win on a stage. The first thing we did with her, I took no squats. Well, this is God's truth. First thing, she came to my room. I'll never forget the time she come. We had never worked together, and she came over to meet me. We were in Orlando, and she came to talk to me. And she's like, I really want to work with you. I really want to work with you. I'm like, okay. I said, why? She goes, I want one of those Odo waistlines. So I was like, really? What do you do? She goes, oh, no. I'm like, okay, no more squats, no more deadlifts. That's how you're going to get a waistline. Took them all out. And honestly, of everything she's done, that little waistline's the most proud thing. I knew she always had great glutes, and I knew she always had a phenomenal backside. I am so proud of what she did from the front side and how much she changed the front to be as good, if not better, than her backside. And so a lot of it was not about what she had, it was about what she had to give up rather than what she had to throw into. And so a lot of times we think that we need to do standardized things because we see that's what you do if you want to gain muscle. But only problem is if you're doing powerlifting movements, I mean, have you ever seen a power lifter that has this really nice hourglass shape? Like, no, they look like a barrel, you know, that, but hey, God bless them. That's what they do. That's their format. And hey, I'm amazed by how much weight they can lift, but you're gonna you look how you lift. And that's the truth. If you lift with dense, heavy weight, you will look dense and thick. And so you have to lift for your category. It's gonna be the same thing with fit model. You're gonna have to lift for that category and not to be dense. And you wanna be more silhouette. And then achieve your balanced look. Because it's, again, going back, it's always going to be about balance. And then I will let Lauralie take it over from glutes because she got way better glutes than me.
It's interesting because we had to bring them down a little bit, right? So going back to training, because I'm so passionate about training, and I do feel that my enjoyment for going to the gym and, pushing hard, like really made me to where I am today, 10 years competing and just really loving it. So one word that would cover everything that Kim talked about, intention. Go in the gym, go by your life with intentionality. And that's going to rule for the rest, your range of motion and all these other things. If you're going at the gym and you don't have that range of motion, then you can go to PT and go into prehab. Like that's a lot of the things that I'm doing right now, since, we've took out some of the main lifts, like hip thrust. I haven't done it in a year and a half. And I was able to just grow my upper glute even more and bring in that waistline to the smallest it has ever been without any back pain. And now I want even more of that top glute, and I know that my restriction comes from a range of motion. So I'm working a lot of my psoas, and I go into body work, and we're releasing that front, hip to be able to go into full hip extension. So these little things goes a long way. And obviously now we have amazing machine that just locks you in a position that the only thing that you should be doing is targeting the muscle. So there's so many different ways to, work out and train. Again, there's no right or wrong way, but the more that you're going to do it, the more that you go with intention into your training, if your focus and this moment is with yourself, the more you're going to get out of, and your progress is your progress. So again, analyze what you have before stepping into a gym. So for me, when I started working with Kim, I was like, this waistline, that's what I want. I have, genetically, I do have a waistline. There's other things that I've done it in the past that have helped me preserve it with my heavy compound lift. I'm thinking, weightlifting belts and all this stuff. But now I want to be able to train without having, needing a belt or needing pre-workout. I just want to go there and train and properly train and not just go and lift on some weight. So now I'm learning how to breathe. I went to get a breathing coach. It was super fun, and just mastering my craft. So, about glutes, I did at some point overgrew them. I was just having a good time. It was during COVID time, and I was training, twice a week, but really heavy. I think we only had access to the gym, 4 times a week, like I said. So I had 2 lower body days. And I was just going there, and I had 60 minutes. I walked in, I was lifting, and then I would come out and just recover for the rest. So that's when I overgrew my glutes, and you can see it on, I think it's that picture. I don't know if you put it there for that reason, but that was the Olympia that, alongside our hormonal week situation, that made me carry a lot of water in that area. I overgrew them. So I got the judges' feedback into, okay, we want a hourglass shape. So again, more is not always more in this sport, okay? You always want to go for balance. And, it took us 7 Olympias to achieve it and 3 Olympias together to achieve it perfectly. And now we're in a good spot where everything is in balance. So again, to grow your glutes, isolate as much as you can. You should know your function of your glutes, extension, abduction, and external rotation, internal rotation, and have those ranges like as much as you can, because the more you have, the more you can get, okay? And we'll go into Q&As, I think, if you have more questions for anything else. I think that would be a great question to ask. Cardio, that's you. That's you, because I would do none of it, but that's you. You want me to talk about? Okay, so cardio, intensity, ways to monitor, fasted or unfasted, and targeted area. So for cardio, we were talking about intensity a little bit earlier when we were doing our cardio right now. So Kim and I are at 30 minutes and incline walking treadmill, pretty low intensity, steady state cardio, and that's where we go. Again, with the idea and the intention that we don't want to lose muscle at all costs. I want to preserve those little babies that there's so many chicken breasts in there. I want to preserve them as much as I can. So we're going for, most of the time, low intensity, steady state cardio. And once we reach a certain point, I want to say like an hour a day, we do split it in half. So Kim would be like, okay, we're starting 30. I'm like, okay, that is time of the prep. I hear you. And then we slowly increment, 5 minutes out of the week probably, and we'll be 35 in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening. And most of the time, I would do it fasted simply for the reason of schedule purposes. I want it out of the way. I just wake up. First thing I do, take it, a ponytail. I strap it out of my head like this, try to make myself up, go on the treadmill, and then do a little bit of, mobility work. And then I would go after my workout for my second cardio or a little bit later at night. But again, when we do cardio, it's with intention of having a calorie expenditure. So I don't do the treadmill with my hands on it and just carrying me through my cardio. I'm doing cardio. So it's chest forward, it's heartbeat, and it's cardio. It's with a purpose, okay? What we did today was more stepping and just having a good time of chit-chatting and just getting some movement. So again, it comes in different times of the prep.
Because you want to, you have two realms of thought, with calories, burning calories on cardio. So one is doing it efficiently, where you're staying in a fat zone, and then the other one is burning as many calories as you can. I like to go into the burning as many calories as you can, because to me, it's all about calories in, calories out. Yes, it's more efficient if you do it at a slower rate for a longer period of time. The only problem is most people don't have, an hour and a half to 2 to 3 hours a day to be able to do cardio. And so in order to get the calories burned that you need in a day to keep yourself on pace to what you're trying to do, you have to be in the gym for 3 hours trying to do cardio, and that's too long. So it's much more efficient to get in, hit your cardio hard, and get out. And then that way, you're burning your calories, you get them burned, you open up that gap between calories in, calories out, and now it doesn't take up a big gap of your day.
Yeah, so that's where I was going with that. So thank you for reminding me. So after we reach that 30, and we normally go 35, maybe 40, maybe. And then he's like, all right, times for, bursts of sprints, and we will do more like a HIIT cardio where we want to increase the calorie expenditure. So how it would normally go is that if we start at 30 minutes 3 times a week, we're going to increase, 30 minutes 7 days a week, and then we could do 30 minutes with sprints every 8 minutes. Sprints every 8 minutes. I'm trying to remind one of my prep. And then slowly increase by doing that. And so you get less time into the gym. And then if I have time one day and I feel like my joints are taking a toll and I'm just super sore, then I would go into LIST just for that purpose of recovery standpoint. Ooh, makeup. Okay, that has become like my new favorite thing to talk about just because of this past Olympiad. I'm just putting you in context because I feel that some of you could relate. But this past Olympia, I've rethought my whole package. Like it was going to be my wedding. So for makeup, I genuinely recommend a makeup artist. You've worked so hard, and the best thing is to wake up in the morning and knowing that you have nothing else to do. Now, don't get me wrong, they are competitors. Like, if you're traveling abroad and you trust yourself more with the makeup, go ahead, totally. But just having people that care about their craft and also care about taking care of you for your show day, which we have in the industry, unbelievable makeup artists, really think about it, and they know the stage, they know the lighting, which is never going to be exactly the same as when you're looking at the mirror in your bathroom. So proper skincare, that goes, along your entire prep. Try to get that in check. It's so fun also to create a nighttime routine or a morning routine with products. And again, there's the professionals that you can, ask them. But I feel that my skin is the best in prep. I'm so hydrated. I am eating good and whole foods, and that's when my skin is just so good. So proper skincare, that goes for makeup, but also the tanning, which we're going to talk about probably later. Foundation, eyeshadow, lips. I feel that you know what looks good on you at this point, okay? And if you want inspiration, a little bit like Kim was saying about the structure, go for someone that kind of have your feature. I'm sure someone already told you, oh, you look like just this superstar or this person, or you go on your social media and you have inspiration that, people kind of have the same eyes as you or the same features as you. Go that, and you can always show an inspiration to your makeup artist and kind of go with those colors or that style. That is something that helped me a lot. Apart from that, I'm not going to go into eyeshadow. You shouldn't do your suit the same color. If that is what you want to do, and that's what makes you feel confident and you feel the best, like it's the best day of your life, and you're that girl, just go ahead and do it, And at the end of the day, I think if it's not distracting to the judges and it flows with your physique, and again, you should know what looks good on you, well, it's just going to speak for itself. At the end, I do feel like because it's a presentation situation, a presentation stage, and not something that you can talk your way into it, your body language needs to speak for it. So anything that makes you feel confident is a win in your book. Ooh, and the hair. I love that you put a blonde and also a brunette, because I feel that in the past, people would say that blonde doesn't do well, and I think it's all about contrast. We have a beautiful blonde in the audience, and I think you should totally rock those hair. And I think it's a matter of matching it with kind of your suit and your tan, and maybe adding some dimension into your hair could help a little bit. For color, again, do what you will. It's totally up to you. For the length, I've seen, I think it was in the past Junior Nats in Chattanooga, we saw this beautiful competitor that had no hair whatsoever, gorgeous, and she won the show. And then you have girls that have pretty long hair. The only thing I would say for the hair, if you could have it where you go to your actual hairdresser and you go into your back pose for my bikini girls, and you have it about an inch or right where your last insert, I think that's really the good spot in order to really showcase that V-taper, because even though we're not taking our hair out of the way for our back pose to show our back muscles, there's still an aspect of an hourglass from the back as well. It's not just from the side, it's also front, side, and then to the back. So if you have your hair off your shoulders from your rear delts, and away from your waistline, that helps showing, the hourglass shape. Again, same thing with makeup, same thing with everything, the whole package. Distraction. You don't want anything that takes away the eyes off from you. We want all the eyes of the judges, all the eyes of the crowd on you. So do it elegantly, professionally, and classy. I think that's the way to go. The shoes. Again, I think we have amazing companies, very popular companies that does great shoes. Strap, no straps. I rather do straps just because I've had too many nightmares where I fall on stage and I refuse to go strapless, but I would go without the straps to my check-ins just because they're easy to slip on, and I would do my check-ins because I don't want to do the whole strap situation every time. But I I use the strap on stage. You know, there were myths in the past that the strap takes away from your leg length or whatever. I really don't think the judges look and pay attention to the shoes really that much, to be honest. One thing I would say is the platform. So we have two different shoes here, but the heel height and then the platform in the front, the higher the heel is, and if you have no platform in the front, the more you're going to showcase quads. So you're going to see a lot of wellness competitor that has no platform in the front, and that helps with the fullness of the quads. Whereas in bikini, we don't want that. So I did change my shoes for this Olympia, where I believe it's either half an inch, but I think it's a full inch in the front, and then I have like a 4.5 inch in the back. So it makes me more balanced and put less focus on my quads, because we did want to decrease my quad size when I walk. So that may be a tip for you ladies that are looking for that. If you want embezzlement, like diamonds style on your heels, go ahead and do it. But on the clear side, I think that's a safe choice, just personally. Jewelry, how much is too much? Again, I think you know. If it's covering your entire arm and you're clinging, and you know you have belly button ring and then a necklace, and you know it's your show, so you do whatever you want. Okay, it's your wedding day, so you do whatever you want. But if you're trying to be competitive and really trying to complement your look, do things that complements you. Okay, so I like to say, my general rule of thumb I would go with is my arm that I have away from my waist. So I have this arm right on my waist. I would have a smaller bracelet just because it's connected to my connectors. And then I would have a bigger bracelet on my arm that's just hanging. Then the ring, I would have probably a ring on my hanging arm and maybe like a smaller one on my arm that's on my hip with the connectors. And then earrings, something that I can do my hair flip really well with. So not too long. Try to practice with your jewelry. That's also a good tip, because you don't want it to just get stuck in your suit. I think that happens a lot. It's either a number that drops or an earring that flies away. I've seen that a lot. So be careful with your jewelry. Suit. So I would say, first thing when it comes to suit, go to npcnewsonline.com first to be aware of the cuts that are allowed, especially for fit model division. It's very particular. And now, obviously, again, we have great suit makers that know what they're doing, but are also constantly reinventing the wheel in order to please to different bodies and complement bodies all the time. So you have the high-waisted, the lower-waisted, the V-waisted, and you need to trial and error what suits you best. But again, I think the standard way is the way to go. As far as the cut, it should fit on your body where you're covering most. I think that's a better example. You're covering this side, right? So no side boob. You're keeping it classy. You're keeping it nice. Tie this little band really, really hard behind you. If you don't have implants, like me, you just use teddy bear fitting, and it does wonder. People won't notice. Shorter connectors, all this stuff. Again, the suit makers, you can have a dialogue with them and really explain all of your worries, and I'm sure they will have you cover. As far as the stone go, I personally love to see colors on the suit, and I think that I've heard that in previous seminars where having a color instead of just like a plaster of just like diamonds that just shine and you can't really see the color, which was trending maybe like a couple years ago, is more or less giving you personality on stage and just giving you like that pop of color. So I would go with a mix of stones that lets the color shines through. How far out do you order? I think I would start looking when you start prepping. So, you look at the style, you look at the color, and that gives you time of changing your mind about 16 times, which that's on average what we do like a day for women. So it gives you time for that, but also to get into the dialogue and the idea that you're going to compete and get into the full experience of having a suit. Try not to do anything last minute. It just takes away from the whole experience, I think. Posing practice.
Practice, 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 practice. There is no substitution for the stage. And a lot of times, I tell my clients all the time because they're like, oh my God, coach, I get so nervous. Well, you know what? Doesn't matter. Do it nervous. And the whole thing is if you're practicing and you continue to practice all the time, even if you get up here and you're nervous, you're going to do what you've been practicing. And so you can never practice enough. Do not practice in front of a mirror. You don't have a mirror in front of you on stage. All you have is a blank crowd and judges. So when you practice, set your phone and practice to your phone. And then after you run it, go look at it, check your angles, see how you're doing. Look when you turn to the back or you're leaning too much forward. Do not do it to a mirror, because then what happens is you're adjusting yourself. Then when you get on stage and you don't have that mirror, what you're doing is you're adjusting yourself by sight instead of by feel. You have to adjust yourself by feel. How does that feel? Oh, there it is. That's it. So you have to learn to make those adjustments by how it feels in a certain pose. So always do everything to a camera and then go study what you do.
Totally. The camera is a very good practice point, because also not only that, when you practice, I put my phone a little bit lower just to have the perception of the judges. You have to remember that the judges are pretty much where you guys are at right now, so they're looking at you up most of the time. So having that phone or a tripod that's about, when you have your heels about belly button height, and posing for that phone specifically, which gives you the right angle when you're trying to pose for that head judge that's normally in the middle, around those two chairs in the middle, that's normally your head judge. So you're trying to angle yourself and position yourself in your best pose to show those two head judge, and that's what the phone can be. Again, posing practice, go do it intentionally as much as you can. I pose and I do my practice of my posing, again, like a training program. I would go, okay, today I'm gonna do the first 5 minutes is going to be call outs. So I'm gonna do call outs. And then the second 5 minutes is gonna be me holding my pose for 30 seconds at a time. And I do repetitions like that. And between 15 minutes to 30 minutes, a day or every other day, that's what I would normally do. And you just go, and sometimes you get more comfortable. Obviously with poses, you get more endurance with your posing too, because the shows are getting bigger. You have to be able to hold your pose, because the first thing they're gonna call you out on is you were not controlling your breathing. We were seeing that stomach going up and down, and you need to control your core and being comfortable in that posture during your posing.
Yeah, and don't just throw poses in there to throw poses, because remember, they're going to judge what you show them. So everything you show them, if you're just throwing poses out there and it's not a good pose, they're going to judge you on it. So you want every pose to be a good picture, and you want everything they see to be a good pose. So if you look at something and you go, ooh, I don't like that, then that's exactly what they're going to say. They're going to go, ooh, I don't like that. Boop. There you go, right out the first call out, right into the second call out. So look, when you're analyzing what your video looks like, analyze it, go, now does that pose look good? Nope. Okay, take it out. And there's this thing sometimes in our heads that we have to be overly flamboyant, or we have to be over the top. No, you don't. You just have to be good. You just have to make each pose solid. And if every pose, if you go through and they go, man, every angle, she looked really good, that's going to get you your call out. That, I promise you, you don't have to be the best poser. You don't have to be spectacular. You just have to be good.
Yeah. I mean, that was the biggest heartbreak of this Olympia, is when we were together a week prior to that, and I'm going through my routine that I've practiced so much. And he's like, take that out. I'm like, what? I'm like, no. I'm showing this glute one time, but I want to show this glute the other time. He's like, no, we're showing assets. And that has been that motto for this Olympia, we're showing assets. So like nothing would take away from the package at any time during my routine. So I'm like, I show the same glute the entire routine. Like it was just different. But again, we get caught up, I feel like, with everything, right? With either nutrition, training, or even posing, that we need to do those things. Not really. You need to do you and what looks best on you and what is right for you. And if you have a coach that knows that and knows you that much, and obviously he knows what is best because he's done it so many times, and I do trust him, like, go with it. You know what I mean? I keep learning and you keep getting better, and I understand where some people get caught up now with, no, but I think I need to do the hair flip. You actually don't. If the hair flip is throwing you off, and don't do it. Just don't. They're not. The judges are not going to be like, wait, she didn't do a hair flip, we should mark her down. Like, those things don't happen. They only judge you by what they see.
Exactly. So now what we'll do is we're going to go into the fit model. Is anybody here interested in doing fit model? 1, 2. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? Because fit model, obviously, the posing will be different. B, the suits will be different. The suits are going to be a little bit more along the line of rack material. By that I mean it won't have any bling. It will be a 50% coverage. And with suits, I want to expound on what Lauralie just said. You guys, they just had the first show in California. And one of my good friends, Ryan Benson, his client was the overall winner there. And that's a good physique for you guys to look at, because her physique was, in a very, very good spot for where fit model will probably be at the NPC level. But be sure to keep an eye out for the NPC website, because after these shows, they are going to probably critique suits, because we're going to have to be patient with the judging and where the criteria, because it's going to be evolving. It always is. This was just the first show, and this was the first round of athletes. So as the athletes come out, they will start to critique the suits. They will critique the walks. They'll critique the shoes. They'll critique conditioning. They'll start to critique, and they'll come out, and they'll give us more and more information on it, so that then as we go through the year, we'll get better and better info on, okay, and then everybody will start to get an idea of where the formulation's going. I think we have generalized ideas on not too muscular, no caps to the shoulders, no lines in the legs, no deep block abdominals, 50% coverage on suits, things like that. But do you guys have any specific questions that we can answer that you may be thinking about it or training on it? Or because the training probably will be different. Depending upon your framework and structure, training is probably going to be a little bit more aerobic than anaerobic, because they're not going to want muscle density. They're going to be looking more for tone and shape. Then they're going to probably actually be looking at structure. So it's going to be more silhouette. And come up here, and that way I can hear you. I promise I won't bite. I just drank my drink, so I'm good.
With something more like an Orange Theory, be what you should be working toward as you work out for the model.
Yeah, I think that will be a good place to go for you. I think it will start your toning. It will start to shape your body without adding a lot of muscle density to it. And so it's going to be a category where you're probably going to be training maybe 3 days a week. You know, again, depending upon where your degree of muscularity is. If you don't have a lot of muscle, then you'll have a little bit more flexibility in your training style. You may be able to train 4 or 5 days. If you do have a little bit more muscle density, then you're going to want to train a little bit less. I think orange therapy would be fine because it's more about the intensity and the high intensity fast twitch fiber range, which I think would fit that protocol very well. So yes, to answer your question, I think that would be a good scenario for you. That would definitely fit the bill.
I just had a question as regarding like cardio as it relates to lifting. Is there any issue with the timing of when you do cardio? Do you do it right around when you lift? I've heard different things as though, do it a different time of day, do it a different day, or does that factor into your ability to retain muscle, grow muscle as to when you do your cardio?
I'm going to come down by y'all. I'm going to mingle down here anyway. I like a people person. So to answer your question, absolutely. Here's my rule of thumb when I talk to my clients about, when should I do my cardio? I always tell them, as long as it doesn't affect your ability to have a good training session, you can put cardio wherever you want. If it takes away from your training, don't do it before. So some of my clients, they can do their cardio session first because it warms them up, and then they go into training and they're fine. Some of them can't do it. It takes energy away. Then they go do training. It cuts back on their ability to give 100%. So I have them split it. So they'll do cardio in the morning, training in the afternoon. So as long as the cardio is not taking away from the energy output that you have for training, it's fine. But if it takes away from your ability or your strength during training, then you want to break it away. Yeah, my rule of thumb is if it takes it away from, because you don't want anything to take away strength from your training, especially if your goal is lean muscle gain. Now with Fit Model, that may be different because you don't need to gain as much muscle. So for you, it might not be as relevant or as important. So if you look, if you have a coach or a trainer and he says, well, you got enough muscle, that's not the thing, then it doesn't matter. Because as long as you have a good workout, that's okay. But if you're trying to gain muscle, then it becomes more relevant.
Is it athlete specific where it's like you change the type of foods they eat 4 weeks out, 8 weeks out before the show?
Yeah, it's okay. Here's the things with diets. Diets, what makes a diet work for an individual is adjustments. What makes a great trainer is great adjustments. So usually when you start programs, almost all structures are kind of similar. There's only a certain amount of good foods you can have. There's only a certain amount of structures. What makes a program a great program are great adjustments. And what you're talking about is exactly what needs to happen. It's customization. It's putting a program to an individual. We've started all of our programs, and they're in similar veins, but they've never been the same. And I don't want them ever to be the same. I want them to be individualistic based on where we are and what we're doing. And then I want to make the reactions based on how her body is responding. So when you design a program for a client, you want to design it with the thought process of, I will make adjustments to this program And if you're prepping somebody, that has to be done weekly because bodies will change. Her body can change in a matter of a day, and it can go woo, woo, woo. And so I have to watch going into a show. I have to literally watch her every 2-3 hours to make sure that it's doing exactly and staying where it wants. Well, when you're adjusting your physiques, you have to watch it weekly if it's a prep. If it's off season or okay, maybe every 2 weeks. But you do want to make adjustments, otherwise bodies will get stagnant and they'll get used to what you're doing, and that's where it's going to sit. Now you can go in and out of food sources and you can create flexibility and variety by what you offer. So you can create an exchange list and go, okay, here's our meal plan. And what you can do is you have an exchange list that you can create flexibility, but I'm going to make adjustments to what we're doing on our meal plan based on how I see things going. So yeah, you're going to want to customize that program and make those adjustments so that you make it work for their body. Does that help? Any questions? Come on, y'all got to have something.
So what advice could you give to someone that wants to compete? Maybe for Lauralie too, of, I've never done it. I've watched from a distance, but always scared to like get started, don't know how to start.
Never done it?
I think you're in the right place today. It shows a lot. If you're taking out of your day to come here and listen to what we have to say, you're already day one, step one into the right direction. And I think that going on NPC News Online, getting surrounded, by like-minded people, maybe in this gym, I don't know where you train, but you work out where like you're thriving into this environment. Like I started where I just like going to the gym because I just felt like I couldn't rely on my soccer teammate anymore because they were drunk after the time. So I was like, well, I needed output that I can rely only on myself. So that's when I bought my membership to the gym, and then slowly but surely I was going twice a day. And then I loved how I felt. And then one time that woman came to me and she was like, you look really good. You should compete. So you already have that. You're already ahead. So just keep on going that track, learn more, get more knowledge. And slowly but surely, you're just going to pick a show. And next thing you know, you'll be on stage. And next thing you know, you'll be like, Lauralie, I just won my pro card. And that's how it like let the normal path happen to you, because that's where you're going to be the most present and enjoy the journey. Because we can talk all day long about our success, but the most successful prep are the one that we can look back and be like, wow, we just really had a lot of fun. And I remember the first time we met, he was like, I'm going to bring fun back into you. I was like, what do you mean fun? I just want to win, But that's really what made it so fulfilling for me. So I don't know if it answers your question, but that's really where I want you to continue on going, because it's such a beautiful journey and you should really take it like one day at a time. And I'm so happy you're with us today. Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll hear people when they do consults, so they'll say, yeah, I was told that when you're just starting, just hire somebody local, just see if you like it. And then later on, if you do well, then hire somebody really good. No, do the opposite. Hire somebody really good first. That way because your first experience is your most important. Even no matter how well you do up here, if the first experience is positive, you do it right, you do it healthy, you have an amazing time, you will want to do it again. No matter what you do up here, no matter what your placing is, that first experience is the most, so you want that experience to be your best experience. Then from there, you can actually go out and go, okay, awesome. I saw what that whole thing is like. I met all these different people. Okay, now I can see what direction I want to go. So always make that first experience be your true first best experience. Talk around, do interviews, talk to 2, 3, 4, 5 really experienced trainers, get a feel for what matches in your personality. Interview. Don't be afraid to interview people, because you're putting your hard work and your energy and your time into it. See who matches your personality. And when you find that match, then commit and go, okay, now I'm going to go all in and I'm going to see what this is all about. And you dive in.
So I'm in prep right now for my first show, and I was kind of wondering what point in your career, or if ever, would you talk about like performance enhancements? Additionally, I'm recently a stage 4 cancer survivor, so I don't know the kind of effect that those might have on like a young body who's kind of been through like chemo and stuff like that. And I was just wondering if you could speak on that a little bit.
As long as you can possibly hold off. And I'll be honest with you, I have Olympia athletes who have used very, very little PEDs. I'm always a proponent of starting off and staying as natural as you can, as long as you can. And then if you get to a place where I feel like I want to investigate it, then you do it the right way. You go to a physician, you go to an HRT clinic, and you get your testing done, you go through the doctors, and you let the doctors monitor you. So you let them do the testosterone treatments, you let them set you up right, then that way you are lowering any risk of anything happening because you're being monitored. So when you're first starting, this is your first show, so you right now, you find out what this is all about. Do not take any health risk. You stay healthy, you stay safe for at least the first year. You just enjoy yourself, learn what this is all about. Because you may even find out for a division, are you doing bikini? So you may even find out you start off in bikini, but you may get up there and go, fit model looks like it fits me pretty good, and I'm just me. All I have to do is right here. You may find you fit that protocol and don't need anything. You might fit that right on the button. Give it a chance. Give it a chance to see, and give it a chance to see you may meet the right individual, the right trainer, whatever, and they may take you right down that right path without having to ever need anything except over-the-counter supplementation, good nutrition. So I would give it a little bit of time. And then if the day comes where you go, okay, now let me see, because of your background and everything, then make sure you do it the right way. That way you never take chances with your health.
I obviously support that wholeheartedly. Your body is a machine. You have to think that whatever you put in, it's either going to fight it. It's a chemical at the end of the day, you know what I mean? So like really try to push yourself to like optimize your sleep. My God, sleep that is the steroids. Like if you want to like feel 100, get your sleep in, stress levels, as minimal as you can, good nutrition. Once you have everything in check and you can honestly tell me face to face that you're doing everything consistently 100%, then if you feel like you're missing something, you can do, adding something. Always remember you're always one cycle away of shitting your physique and looking bloated waist, crazy cap shoulder, acne, like you see crazy things happening now. So you have to be conscious of that. Always one cycle away of breaking your physique. Okay? Ready for the rifle? The raffles?
So I told you a little. Okay, it's working now. Okay, I told you a little earlier that I just started prep, and I don't know. Okay, and I want to make sure that I'm properly recovering. So I'd like to ask you what your best methods for recovery are during prep, and going back to the electrolytes. Do you use them daily during prep, or is it during your training days?
So 3 questions in here. If I miss one, please, just repeat if I miss it. So I'm going to start with electrolytes. I did use them almost every day, half a scoop every day. I'm trying to be consistent, especially because it contains sodium and it does contain, obviously, magnesium and potassium and all the good stuff. So I did use half a scoop consistently. Now, on heavier training day where it was a lot of sweating situation going on, I would just add another scoop of electrolytes. So these are great for that. Alongside other supplements like EAs that I do take, glutamine I do take. So that's for obviously fueling the body and making sure that I'm optimal, considering a pretty decent calorie deficit, and considering that I have cardio to do and training to do, and also like the rest of my life that I need to carry on, you know? As far as recovery, you touched based on recovery. How are you sure that you're recovering enough? I think that I think that I've not recovered for a long time, and it ended up showing on blood work, for example, for a little bit. Or I feel like you have to know the extreme before thinking about, oh, am I recovering enough? If you get your sleep and you don't feel tired and you can go by your day and being intentional with your workout, your intensity, you're going to be your best judge. But you can also be your worst enemy. So just like try to be right in the middle where you're helping yourself. But things that are great to do, like being optimal with your sleep. You don't have a good pre-bed routine, like whether it is, winding down, just close your phone. Do not disturb is like my favorite. That is my favorite thing that I added to this prep. Do not disturb function on your phone. And just go by your little routine, and set yourself to a good night of sleep, and then wake up in the morning. You'll see it's gonna change your life. Yeah. And you can also work in collaboration with body work, including body work, including foam rolling. You do develop some kind of intuition with your body too a lot. We were talking about nutrition earlier, and I remember I had rice into my diet, but if I was to eat that pre-workout, I would opt for the white rice, but don't tell me to eat white rice in a random time of the day because that's my trigger food, and I love a good hot pot of rice. So I would just go for the boring rice. I would just be having the brown rice on a rest day, for example, because I know I'm not going to use it, so I don't want that insulin spike. So if you want to look into carbs more, you can go into the GI index, and that can tell you how you digest your carbs. That's a good insight.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is it necessary to eat a lot of chicken? Is that the best protein that you have to eat, or can you go and choose steak? And also for the oils, is it okay to use fat from steak as your oil instead of just using any type of oil?
There are two different types of protein. Only because the difference between your protein between steak and chicken is the fat content. So if you're getting your protein from chicken, you're getting it from a lean source. If you get it from from steak, it's a little higher fat. Now, oil doesn't have protein. So oil is a straight fat. So if you're getting your fats from steak, you got a combination there. You've got fat and protein. Now, steak is high in iron. So usually if I use steak, I will use it because I want to get my clients' iron levels up. And then I control how much steak they have depending upon where their body fat levels are. So you have to think of, when you think of steak and protein, you have to think of, okay, how much fat am I wanting to add into the diet? And how much will be lean, how much lean meat do I want them to have in relation to that? With fats, it's okay, do I want them to have a true fat? Or am I looking for more of a combination? So you can, depending upon how you want to implement it into the diet, you can say, you can break it down. They'll go, okay, so much of this will be coming from the steak. Okay, so now I'll add the additional fats I want them to have to come from a clean fat. Now, the fats that come from oil is going to be a cleaner fat than what comes from steak, because some steak has saturated fat, whereas an oil is polyunsaturated. It's a true fat. So, and the absorption rate is going to be much better. So, all these little factors play into it. So when you're using steak, just think of steak being a higher fat protein and chicken being a lower fat protein. It's like salmon. Salmon being a higher fat protein and chicken being a lower fat protein. And salmon being a better quality fat than steak. See what I'm saying? So they're all in the same realm. They're just different values of each.
We also kind of use both. On our refeed days, we would alternate between salmon and steak, and he'd be like, "So what do you feel like today?" And I'm like, "Oh, I think my stomach can handle a steak. I think we need the iron. You start, like I said, you start feeling your body, what your body actually needs. And then when I want something that is lighter, more on the fast, I would go with salmon because it's just I know I digest it a lot better, and I could just pair that with rice, and it gives me sushi feels, and I'm like, okay, I feel 100. I can go train, and like I feel good. But I have this. I call it the one ingredient rule. So the purest form of a certain ingredient, okay? So chicken is full chicken. Now for fat sources, not all fats are created equal. We're talking about fat coming from the meat, and then I can talk about fat coming from the oil, fat coming from peanut butter. We love our peanut butter, or fat coming from an avocado. And for us, we chose avocado because it's a lot more volume for the amount of fats that you can actually get, but also considering that it contains carbs because it is a fruit at the end of the day. So if you get the purest form, like a sweet potato, it's only sweet potato. So it's very easy to manage how much your carb intake is without affecting your other macros like protein and in your fats during the day. And that's why like being vegan or vegetarian, when you have fat sources that are like those impossible patties or like things that are mixed, normally they're mixed with some type of carbohydrate or even fats. So now you have to kind of manage that. So our diets is, people would look at it and be, it's a very meathead, almost people call it cookie cutter, but it works. It works. It's whole foods. It's the purest form of the food, like to a point where now I go to grocery store, Whole Foods have my chicken and my egg whites. Fresh Market have my salmon and my ground turkey. Like I go that specific because I just know that's the thing that makes me the most consistent and the most performant. So if I feel off one day, I'm like, was it the inorganic avocado that I bought? And I can maybe pinpoint to that, to that point, or was my sleep off? And then we can exchange on a conversation where we know exactly what we're talking about. And there's not a lot of variables that can change in that sense if you're really consistent to that level.
Hi. So this is another nutrition-related question. You mentioned, of course, 1 gram of protein per body weight. Does that is customizable as well per client, or do you stick hard and true to that role? And is it age related? Is it like age determined? Because I'm a master's client and I'm at a lot more grams of protein right now.
No, that's a generalized rule, but I go on a sliding scale. So what I do is yeah, because what I do is that's the midpoint that I find most people can handle and not have a lot of problems. So basically what I did is I look at an average, I do a weighted average of, okay, I train probably 300 women a year. So I go, all right, most of the girls can handle about, this much. So that's where I kind of start. Then each individual, I go back to that adjustment. Each individual I study. Okay, now, how you digest? Do you feel bloated? Are you feeling sluggish? Yeah, I can, after I eat this, okay. So then I start nibbling it down. Now, how does that feel? Oh, so much better. Okay, you can't handle it. Then I make notes. I have a folder, I got all my notes in there. So then I study, okay, now she can't handle this kind of protein. So now every program I make for her, I lower her from a gram down to 3/4 of a gram, or maybe 60%. Whereas somebody else, I may go up. So it's different with each person because each person's digestibility of it is going to be different. But you kind of have to have it. Now, the other thing is I always have my clients fill out a questionnaire form, and I will study what you are currently doing. So that's the other thing I base it on. So if I look at what you've been previously doing and I kind of pre-calculate it and go, all right, she's only eating about 100 grams of protein a day. No, I'm not going to put you on 150 grams of protein. Your body's not going to handle it. And vice versa. If you've been having 180 and I look and go, okay, she's been having 180. All right, let me lower her down to 150 because let me put it about where she's at. Let me see how she feels. So I will find an even balance range. But usually it usually falls in that range, and then I go up and down, just depending upon. And most masters I find can do a little more, only because they've been lifting longer and they're kind of used to it. They're used to eating a little bit more because that's been in their mentality for longer. Questions?
I've lost over 100 pounds, so I'm struggling with some skin tightening issues. Do you have any recommendations for that?
Elasticity? Okay. I've had this discussion a lot. Skin elasticity is one of the most genetic things. You know, we see people and we look at them and go, you had a baby and nothing, no stretch marks. You just went whoop right back. And we go, why? How did that happen? It's very genetic. Now, yes, there are topicals that you can use to help with skin rejuvenation. There's collagen that you can bring in to try to help with skin rejuvenation. Unfortunately, I mean, having proper fats, you know, in your diet, you know, to help with the skin oils. There's things you can do to rejuvenate, to try to rejuvenate the cells. The basic thing is it's getting what you end up having to do, and it depends on where the skin elasticity is, because some areas you can pull the fat through, add lean muscle tissue. So let's say if it's legs, okay, you could take the body fat out, add lean muscle tissue, and the muscle tissue can compensate and fill that gap, that void that was body fat. It could fill that void with muscle, but around the tummy, can't do that. So if you try to add muscle there, now you're going to distend, and now that's going to push out. So with skinny, it's just a matter of time and continuing to use topicals, you know, things that have collagen and, you know, things that may help, you know, like lipoxyderm or, you know, things like that. Try to get the body fat, you know, in that area that may be marbled. You know, with marbled body fat is what is marbled in. It's fat that's marbled in with the muscle and the subcutaneous fat. So it's getting that all out to where it's just the skin part. And then, you know, unfortunately, it's maybe just surgery or what you can do with skin elasticity. But skin elasticity is very genetic, you know, and some people have great skin elasticity. Some, it takes a while, but just keep doing what you can with topicals. Keep, you know, working the area for body fat so that the skin fold gets smaller and smaller and smaller to where it's just skin. And then maybe do a consult to see with a physician or something to see maybe if there's something else. Peptides now they're doing an amazing thing with peptides. So maybe peptides are something that we can look into. Questions? All right, we'll do our raffle. Okay. So what we'll raffle off first, we'll do the biggest thing first while everybody's here. So we're gonna raffle off, you get this, don't scream. We're gonna raffle off a 12-week contest prep. I'm gonna make Lauralie do it. Okay, let's shake this up. Let's shake this up. Put that in there. Pull it.
Only the last four numbers. 6821. 6821. Stop. Yay! Yay! Congrats.
So hold on to that. You could call my office, and Kat can help you out with that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, now this one is going to be transferable because one of you guys, nobody here might not be doing the USAs. So this is a free tan to the USAs. So if you know somebody doing the USAs, you can give this to them as a gift. This one's transferable.
Six 6815. Yay!
I knew it. I knew she was going to be the one. So this is for Tan Masters. So what you can do is just hold on to this, and if you give it to somebody who's doing USAs, then they will just call the company, let them know they have it, and then give it to the girls, and the girls will compliment them. Okay? Unless you do it. Yay. We'll give away, let's do these sweatpants. We'll do these sweatpants.
Six 6816. Yay!
Hi.
It's great to see you. Thanks for being here too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, honey. We'll do a body by old tank top.
Body by old tank top. Want me to just go? Okay. 6820. Stop! Yay! Wait, there's so much luck over there. I need to hang out with you. Congrats.
Going to sleep looking at your videos. Oh, so when we talk about like sleep, you know,
And when-
I need to stop looking at your videos at night.
Wait, no.
When we get done, Lauralie will take pictures with everybody. Anybody who wants to take a picture, she'll take a picture with her over there by the wings. Let's do the balance complex. Lauralie wants to snag it.
I want to win this. 6825. 6825.
Oh, perfect. Right for your show. Actually, you want that or you want the water pills? You want that or you want the water pills? 15, do the water pills. Hold on to these. That's your herbal water pills. You'll use those. I'll tell you how to take them.
Okay. Second pair. 6831. 6831. Yay! Oh my God. The playlist is
They're soft. Yes, I almost want to put them on.
fantastic. We love it.
Good.
Oh, is that with the front? Oh, yeah, I love this one. That's cool. Okay.
You want me to save that last?
I have one already.
Oh.
You silly. 6830. 6830. Yay.
Thank you. Now she has a set.
Okay. Second tank top. 6818. 6818. Yay!
There you go.
Tank top. 6835. 6835. The vibes.
Congratulations.
things I brought.
Okay. 6817. 6817. Congrats. Six eight two four. 6824. Oh, congrats. Six 6828 for the joggers. 6828. Yay. Oh, sure. Thank you. Last two. Tank top. Last tank top. Wait, this or
one now.
This one now. Last tank top. 6832. 6832. Oh! Good. Last but not least. Six eight two six. 6826. Oh, there you go. Perfect.
There you go.
Yay. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.
Anybody that wants to do a photo with Lauralie, we'll head right over to that wings right over there.
Or chat, or
And-
just hang out, you know.
Or if you just want to go chat and hang out with Chappy.
Chappy, chatter, yappy, yappy. No, honestly, thank you guys so much for coming, every single one of you. Wherever your journey leads onto you, I hope it is the best one, and I'm wishing you, everyone, good luck, and hope to see everyone soon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Oh, and shout out to the men, Kimbo. I always forget about you.
She forgot about me in the Olympia stage. She was just thanking everybody, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Wait,
no Kimbo.
you didn't say a word until I realized I didn't say your name, and like I cannot forgive myself for it. But honestly, you guys, this man changed everything for me. I was in a place where I wasn't really sure I enjoyed bodybuilding anymore, and he revived that light into my life, but also in my career. So I'm forever thankful for you. You know how much I love you, and I'm so happy. I mean, we've achieved everything we wanted to achieve now, and I mean, we're gonna carry on. You know where we're going next, and I'm so happy to have you in my life. And also, I'm just proud of who you are for the sport, because there's no one like you, Kimbo, and you make our sport the healthiest it can ever be. So I'm so thankful for you. So.
Well, it's like I always tell everybody.
Just take it. Just take it. Just take it.
No, relationships take two people. Period. If it's a one person, it ain't a relationship. Two people make great relationships. There's my other people right here.